passage of time, we have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.
This meeting of the Starkville Board of Aldermen will now come to order. Please rise and sing the Pledge of Allegiance to be followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you have before you a copy of the modified written agenda. Are there any proposed revisions to the written agenda? Any proposed revisions?
I got a few to put on consent.
All right, go one at a time.
All right, under board business, item A.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to move item 10A under board business, consideration of the approval of the OCEDA budget to the consent agenda. Is there any objection? If you have an objection?
Still hear the public appearance from Mr. Wallace?
Yeah, okay, so we'll hold that one off the consent agenda for now.
I'm fine with it.
No, we can still hear the.
Okay, you
I'm
don't
fine with it.
object to the item being moved to consent, you just want to still hear the public appearance? Okay, so is there any objection to item 10A being moved to consent? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item 10A has been moved to consent. All right, further proposed.
Does Alderman Parker need to recuse himself from item C?
I have been advised to do
Okay.
so.
Let's see, item H, well, item H is on consent. That may be it. Now that I look at it. Yeah.
Further proposed revision.
Mr. Mayor, on page, no, may I be
Hold on, I've
recognized?
got Alderman Corey.
No, that's okay, Alderman Perkins.
Go ahead, he's recognized, go ahead.
Unless there are any objections, I would ask to consider have item G1 added to the consent agenda, which is the creation of the IT position that we've already budgeted for and reclassification of the existing position that we have. G1.
All right, Alderman Corey's proposed revision
Under board business.
is to move item 10G1 on page 3, and that is the consideration of approving the creation of an information technology department and an information technology manager position, and renaming the existing computer systems manager position to systems network administrator, to authorize the personnel director to advertise for the newly created information technology manager position to the consent agenda. Is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item 10G1 has been moved to consent agenda. Any further proposed revisions?
Have you recognized, Mr. Mayor?
You may. Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to remove item B on number 3, and the reason I want to remove that, I just want the staff member in charge just to explain this so the public will know how many partial payments, just for that reason and no other reason. I'm going to support this request, and I want to remove that from the consent. And I think the 2 fire department matters are off the consent. Just want to make sure they're off, and that concludes my
Yes,
my consent matters.
both matters under subsection G, fire department, are off the consent agenda, and you have removed item 10B from the consent agenda, the consideration of the amendment to the interlocal agreement with the Oktibbeha County Tax Collector's Office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, any further proposed revisions? Any further? Alderman Carter.
Under Department Business K, Sanitation Department, number 1, I'd like to take that off consent if possible.
All right, the item Alderman Carver's removed from the consent agenda is the request for authorization to accept the proposal from Blue Box LLC for the acceptance of recyclables. Is that correct?
I tell you what, no, sir, I'm gonna leave that on consent.
Okay?
I was reading too fast.
Further proposed revision. So that item, just as clarification, that item remains on consent agenda. Further proposed revision.
Mayor, let me raise two issues.
Okay.
On item H on page 3, Mrs. Outlaw just handed me some law on that. I need time to read that law before that item goes before the board, just to make sure we're clear legally. So I would recommend that come off consent, just to give me time to read the law on the issue.
Recommendation from the city attorney is the removal of item 10H, consideration of the approval of the revised contract with AMS from the consent agenda.
Does that need to be off the agenda or just consent? Is
Yeah,
that
if I have
enough
time to read it during like the break or something, I'll be fine. I want to look at the law.
Is that time sensitive?
No.
I'd just like to remove that from the agenda.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to remove item 10H from the agenda. Now, to be clear, that is to remove item 10H, the request for the approval of the revised contract with AMS from the agenda altogether. Is there any objection? Any objection to removing item 10H from the agenda? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item 10H has been removed from the agenda. Further proposed revision. Alderman Corey.
If there aren't any objections, I would also ask to consider having the engineering and streets, item F1, added to consent.
The proposed revision from Alderman Corey is to move item F1 under engineering and streets, request for authorization to advertise for bids for SC1 asphalt source of supply for the first quarter of 2011 to the consent agenda. Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been moved to the consent agenda. Further proposed revisions.
Mayor, I have one more.
All right.
On the electric department, E2 on page 5, the request for the authorization for the mayor to sign the roofing warranty documents. In those warranty documents, there are paragraphs that violate public policy under Mississippi law. I've advised Mr. Hadaway of that, and my recommendation would be to push back on the vendor to get him to strike those provisions. But the paragraph that, or the contract that's in the packet is the old contract that has those provisions that violate public policy. So I need to raise that issue with the board.
So is your recommendation to remove that matter from the agenda tonight?
To not pass it when it violates public policy.
Okay. Alderman Corey.
I would ask that item be removed from the agenda.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Corey is to remove item E2 on page 5 from the agenda. That is the request for authorization for the mayor to sign roofing warranty documents for the electric department. Is there any objection to that proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, item E2 on page 5 has been stricken from the agenda. Further proposed revisions. Any further proposed revision? Any further proposed revision? Any further proposed revision? All right, seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Corey to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Dumas. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter before you is the consideration of the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any objection to the consent agenda? Any objection to the consent agenda as revised? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, consent agenda is approved. That will take us to the consideration of the minutes for the September 21st, 2010 board meeting. Alderman Corey?
Mayor, I would move approval of September 21st, 2010 board meetings with the 2 corrections provided by the city attorney.
And have those corrections been reduced to writing?
They have.
Could you pass them? Appreciate it. And the motion from Alderman Corey is to approve the minutes from the recess meeting of the Board of Aldermen on September 21st, 2010, with the following 2 corrections. Correction number 1, adding the following language to item number 29. Sansom Equipment from Tupelo, Mississippi made the lowest bid at $303,118.40. It quoted a delivery time of 150 days. Waters Truck and Tractor of Columbus quoted the next lowest bid at $303,687 with a delivery time of 60 days. The difference in the 2 bids is $568.60. the board deliberated and determined that the faster delivery time and closer proximity of Waters Truck and Tractor made its bid the best bid and worth the $568.60 difference in the bids. Change number 2 is in item number 33, closed session should be changed to open session in the second paragraph. And I'm now handing the written copy of the proposed changes to the city clerk. Do I hear a second on Alderman Corey's motion?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request or consideration of approval for the minutes of the October 5th, 2010 meeting.
Move approval.
Motion's been made by Alderman Corey to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen on October 5th, 2010. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that will take us to announcements and comments by the mayor and board. And I have one recognition tonight. We are recognizing Ed Hadaway, who has recently retired from service with the electric department. And I'll have a plaque to present Mr. Hadaway in a second, but I want to take a moment to recognize Mr. Hadaway's service to the department. Ed Hadaway began working for the city of Starkville in September of 1974 as a groundsman with the Starkville Electric Department. After working his way up the ladder, Ed was promoted to the Starkville Electric Department manager in 1990, while also serving on non-active duty for 17 years in the U.S. Army Reserve. Ed's loyalty and dedication to the city of Starkville has proven to be one of his biggest assets. Over the years, he has weathered various storms that have caused major power outages all over the city. Ed and his crew always worked around the clock to restore power to their customers in a timely manner. Ed envisioned Starkville Electric Department becoming one of the best electric departments in the state of Mississippi. After many years of hard work, his vision became a reality. Under the guidance of Ed Hadaway, Starkville Electric saw the completion of new substations, a new warehouse, and most importantly, a new general office. Ed and his wife Linda enjoy traveling. They are looking forward to taking trips and spending time with their family. Ed was a loyal employee to the city of Starkville. He truly cared about the welfare of the customers. Ed's 36 years of dedication and knowledge will surely be missed. We wish him well in retirement and his future endeavors. Please join me in congratulating Ed Hadaway on a well-deserved retirement. And now we'll have our recognition of the Employee of the Month by Alderman Vaughn.
The Employee of the Month for the city of Starkville is P. Hayes. He is an equipment operator for the street department and has been employed with the city since May 2009. It is Pete's job to help maintain all our streets, roadways, and ditches. Since his hiring, Pete has been a positive influence in the street department. He recently demonstrated an extraordinary display of customer service. He recovered a laptop computer that a citizen left on top of his car. Pete heard the computer fall to the street and retrieved it before it could be run over. The computer had no identification, and Pete went beyond his duty to find the owner. After doing some research, he was able to locate the owner and return the computer to his rightful owner. The computer owner sent a very nice letter commending Pete for his action. Pete has also shown his kindness outside of the street department by going to Haiti to work with a humanitarian group and often support and help the victim of the earthquake. The city of Starkville has the street department and proud recognize Pete as the employee of the month. A man lived with great courage, trustworthy, and great integrity. I would like to present you the employee of the month for the great city of Starkville, Pete Hayes.
Do we have any further comments from the members of the board? Alderman Parker.
I'd like, we've got an item on consent now, but I'd like to point out to make sure we get it in the paper and get it on, we have a new, for our curbside recycling program. On the consent agenda, we've approved Blue Box to be our new distributor or for our curbside recycling program. So for the residents, that means that there will be no, service will continue as it has been in the past. We will also start taking glass. I would say probably the first week of December is when we'll actually start accepting glass in our recycling. This new contract also gives the city a 25% rebate on recyclable commodities, which will be a very, we'll get a report each month of how much recycling we are taking the vendor, and we will be getting money back based on the volume that we're taking them. So just wanted to share make sure everybody understood that the recycling program will continue as it has been with the addition of glass starting in December.
And for those like me who wasn't sure, we'll continue to use our bags.
Right, exactly.
Further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. Any citizen wishing to make comments may do so by coming forward and introducing yourselves, and you'll be recognized for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Turner, Ward 7. Want to recognize Vice Mayor Sip Trump
Mr. Turner.
and Alderman Vaughn.
Yeah.
The citizens, with the time change next week, the citizens are very concerned about the dangerous intersections that we have, which is First Ship and Russell Street, Gillespie Street and Washington Street, and Liverpool Street and Warren Street. We're more frightened about the hours, 8 o'clock a.m. rush, 9 o'clock rush, and that mad 5 o'clock rush. Then we hope that you never have to be bound to a wheelchair or you walk with a cane. The citizens are bold and very upset with people that pretended to have been raped, pretended to have been robbed. That's nothing to play with, and you can get very serious hurt. We would like for those people to be charged with pretending to be raped, pretending to be robbed, because that makes it hard on the emergency vehicles. If they get a real rape, a real robbery, and they feel like that people playing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Are there any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments?
Michael Queeson, Ward, Dumas's ward. I've spoken about sidewalks, but what I'm real passionate about is recycling. I lived in New Jersey when we instituted statewide recycling. Of course, there it was mandated. It was illegal to throw recyclable materials into the garbage stream. And in Jersey, we're not like California. We didn't do it to save the environment. We did it to save money. And I would like to see Starkville use recycling to save money. That's why I spoke about recycling when the budget was being talked about, but it got drowned out in the sidewalk discussion, which I also spoke about because I care about. But I'd like to see recycling, our number of people recycling increase drastically. I'm guessing we're at the 20% or below compliance rate. I'd like to see that increase by any way possible. Part of what I was glad about, anytime the word recycling is above the fold in the paper, we're getting free advertising, good, bad, or otherwise. It's advertising. And so, I think we sorted that out. I hate to see that. The other thing you save in recycling is energy. Now we're going to be sending our truck to Columbus. It's going to cost us more to recycle. I don't know what the contract is. But recycling, you're basically saving energy. And if you're using more energy because you change the means of your recycling, you're being counterproductive. But, I'm much more passionate about recycling and saving energy. But our family has been concerned about the energy situation since 1971 and the oil embargo. So those are the things I'm truly passionate about. And hopefully we can use that to save money. Senator Sistrunk did great with our budget. And Perkins, tried to hold the line further and fought valiantly that day. And I think it's a freebie recycling, so to speak. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. O'Queeson. Further citizen comments? Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments?
Mayor, could I ask a question now about recycling, or would it be better to wait?
You certainly can.
Okay, on that with Blue Box, I know it's a private organization. Would they still use our city? Will we use our city trucks and deliver it to Columbus, or would they be? I know I see them in town a lot picking things up here.
We will. So it'll be the same process. The way we're going to change the process is right now, there are, on recycling day, there are 3 trucks that go pick up recycling now. Since we're taking in town, we're going to change our routes up to make sure there's only 1 truck picking up recycling on that one day. So that 1 truck will take the recyclables over to Columbus to dump. The benefit of this contract over the previous contract is we had a profit sharing in the previous contract, but it was based on cost of sorting plus cost of the commodity price. This contract actually gives us a rebate strictly on commodity pricing. So we will be getting a rebate, and they also offer us another 25% profit share rebate. So we know we will be getting a 25% rebate and could potentially get another 25% rebate. So, and they're taking glass, so it's a much better for the recycling. Everybody's been asking for glass for the entire year.
That's my other question. The bags and glass are compatible, not broken glass?
Currently, yeah, we feel like we can use the bags with the glass.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mayor.
Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. And we have 2 public appearances scheduled tonight. The first is by Jack Wallace with the OCEDA budget. Jack, you can come with the confidence of knowing that your budget's already been approved, but the board would like to hear the explanation of the budget.
Well, I totally agree. Board, Mayor, thank you for your time tonight. You should have I know you do, the budget from us already. Right quickly, I'm going to give you an update on what we're doing and where we're at with OCEDA. In the research park, our building, which has 55,000 square feet in it, is totally occupied. Short 1 tenant that's moving into the new building, but we already have a new tenant lined up for that space. The new building will come online, is coming online as we speak actually, should be in full operations January 1. That building has 25,000 square feet in it. It does have a real nice reception space that I'm hoping that the city will take advantage of in some future event that we might have that's very pretty and looks out over Highway 82. In any event, we are occupied, we're in full steam. The only thing we cannot get going is the cleanup of our Brownsfield spot. We have applied for grants. We still will apply for everything we can find that will enable us to encapsulate the Brownsfield spot, which will be about 30 acres, and that leaves about 40 or 50 that we can develop. And you've probably seen in the paper our future recommendation from the board, of which the mayor, of course, is an integral part. We intend to make that a space where we would have maybe ball fields. We can do athletic events. We can't build a building on top of it. We would envision encapsulating the methane gas and burning it maybe for lighting in the park at night on the bike paths and that kind of events. So we know we can use the 30 acres of that, and we'll do it. You also notice we are actively trying to find a food service vendor that we can put in the park. We think with as many people that work there, if we could conserve energy by them being able to eat breakfast and lunch on site rather than having to come downtown, that we're actually doing a service for the community. So we're actively pursuing that, at least for breakfast and lunch. The other side of the coin would be Cornerstone Park. We only have the one street in place. We do have, of course, fire protection, and some of you may be new. We gave the 2 acres back to the city for the well that is there, and it was a great spot for you to have a well, and we have the fire main coming through the land as we now already activated, and sewage and the road that you see. Our long-term ideas would be to make an entrance across the highway into the airport property. And if we keep working with aeronautical-based research with the university and someone comes in and finds a product that they might want to either manufacture or assemble or further touch, if you would, that we would be able to access Cornerstone rather quickly. That sort of brings you up to date on what's going on in the parks, the 2 parks that we have. And we also are working on one mega site, which would be right at 1,050 acres. It's already TVA approved. We're looking at that site, and that's between here and Columbus. And of course, we will follow up on that as we need to. The budget you have in front of you is $591,100 budget. We have 2 sources of income. One is our building lease and reimbursement for utilities, internet service, etc., which totals $392,100. We're being very conservative looking at the 2% food and beverage income, and we have it pegged at $198,000 for the next year. And we are very happy when we miss it. But in any event, that gives us a total income budget of $591,100, and we've scheduled to spend the $591,100. We're required to come before you for the 2% portion of our budget. But we feel like we're partners with the city of Starkville, and we need to bring our entire budget to you each year, and we will continue to do that. So we really will respectfully request that you're approving our total budget, and not only the 2% food and beverage. The food and beverage income we have, we're spending proposed to spend about $5,000 in retirement marketing, directly in retirement marketing. We all know, and you know, that a retiree in our community is a very good source of income for the city and for the county. So we're actively trying to pursue that more and more. Number 2, we're going to increase our general marketing budget to about $25,000 for general marketing. It's a very difficult situation out there right now, but that requires us to be more active. And then we're raising or increasing our industry relations expenditures to about $25,000. The balance of the $198,000 will help us defray the $46,000 we're spending to retire our note at Cornerstone. Number 1. Number 2, to help us take care of the huge amount of expense of keeping the research park landscape and looking real nice like it does now. So generally that's it. It's a simple budget this year. Our board works together real well. We're enjoying having a new mayor on our board, and I would respectfully submit that total budget to you, and I guess you've already approved it, but I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you might have about our operation.
Questions or comments for Jack about those city budgets? Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments?
He answered all my questions.
Is the new building full?
I think there's 3,000 feet left here now. I might be wrong on that, don't quote me. I think there's 3,060 square feet of space there that might not be full yet.
Good.
My understanding is, though, that it will be by the time it opens.
Good.
And the university, for your information, you probably already know it, they already have grant proceeds coming to build another building. It will be built on phase 2 in the park. And as you probably already know, they're trying to get the bids ready and to turn loose the new 4-lane entrance that will tie into our 4-lane boulevard. We've transferred land to make that accessible where the university can tie in at the right spot. We swapped a little land with the university. as a matter of fact. Any other questions?
Any further questions or comments?
Thank you so much for your support.
Thank you, Jack, and thank you for all that you do. Most of you know Jack doesn't get paid a dime for his city service. He does an excellent job. All right, our next public appearance is from Jeffrey Rupp on behalf of Country Club Estates for proposed new signs for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I think you have the supporting materials in front of you. The homeowners of Country Club Estates would like you to approve our new signs. Very decorative. We do have, the signs are too heavy to bring in the entire post, though, but here's what the actual street signs will look like. And we'd ask your approval of those signs and be happy to entertain any questions.
Questions or comments for Mr. Rupp?
Kind of like Ole Miss with a random number for speed limit, or y'all gonna do a stand?
Ole Miss has absolutely nothing to do with the decision on our street signs or that number, but we have, we are looking at.
Is that your handicap, Jeffrey?
That's good. This is turning into a roast.
Is this the
Any
last
further
time you've been to a
questions,
board
Scott?
meeting since you were mayor?
Gentlemen, any other questions?
Further questions or comments for Mr. Rupp? Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Rupp. And with no public hearing scheduled for this evening and no mayor's business, that will take us to board business. And the first matter for discussion under board business is the consideration of the amendment to the interlocal agreement with the Oktibbeha County Tax Collector's Office authorizing partial payment of taxes in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 27-41-1. Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing that I would like for our city clerk just to explain so that the public will be fully informed as to the full understanding and meaning of what this requested proposal is all about. So Ms. Outlaw, if you would just explain so the public and the newspaper will know that and the public will get the benefit of this if they need it.
Well, this is the tax collector that's collecting taxes for the city is going to allow partial payments. And I haven't spoken with Ms. Kite, but partial payments is going to be you make half payment and then some maybe month or so later there's a schedule and she'll have you make half of the remaining payment and then maybe a month or so later you make the other half payment, the balance of the payments. So it's a three-part process.
So in other words, Ms. Outlaw, just for the public, in the past, the payment has been due in full, at least by or before January 31 of that year following the tax year,
Right.
And that the Board of Supervisors, according to my reading of the newspaper, has already approved this. And since the Board of Supervisors has approved this, and the county collect our taxes, so we have to join in as an interlocal agreement to approve it so it can be effective. And it's my understanding we approve this, it goes to the office of the Mississippi Attorney General for approval. If they approve it, then it can go into a partial payment status.
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I move that we grant approval to the amendment to the interlocal agreement with Occidental County Tax Collector Office authorizing partial payment for taxes in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 2741-1.
Alderman Perkins has moved approval of the amendment to the interlocal agreement with the Occidental County Tax Collector's Office authorizing partial payment for taxes in accordance with Mississippi Code annotated 21-41-1. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
2741.
27-41-1.
Yes, sir, that's my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion? Alderman Sistro.
I have just another question for Ms. Outlaw, and again, to clarify for people who may be thinking about doing this, this gives people the flexibility to spread their payments over a period of time, but they will incur some interest. Is that not correct, Ms. Outlaw?
That is
On the
correct.
second and third payment, there will be interest in addition to their normal tax payment.
That's correct. Any amounts not paid will be subsidized.
Subject to interest. Okay.
Exactly.
Further discussion? Any further discussion on Alderman Perkins' motion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Perkins' motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of approval of the proposed street signs for Country Club Estates. Discussion.
I'm gonna, based on advice from the city attorney, I will accuse myself.
And we'll give Alderman Parker a moment to exit the room.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the proposed street signs for Country Club Estates in accordance with the City of Starkville street signage policy. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any?
One question, Mayor. What city staff person kind of oversaw that the specs were met that are in the board packet?
Chief Administrative Officer.
Lynn, can I ask you a couple?
Where's Mr. Kemp? Here, there. The street signs, actually, I received the information, but the street signs themselves are following Mr. Kemp's ability to determine their specs.
Okay, let me just run down this list to do our due diligence. Edward, you received a written submission for this project, or for this change?
No, I've not received it.
Who in the city received a written submission to make this amendment?
I received it.
Okay, so that's been received. Who received the map showing the exact boundary of the neighborhood?
I received the map.
Okay, and was that also a plat?
It's, whatever you have is there in front of you. Well, not on the agenda, but in front of you as of today.
Yes, what's on the table is a plat.
Okay. And was there an agreement to the city to provide the commitment letter necessary?
I have not received the consent letter necessary, but I anticipate that they will get one.
Okay.
It has been stated that they will comply with all the requirements.
Okay, just wanted to run down those criteria.
Okay. Does the motion need to be made contingent upon the commitment letter being received?
Yeah, I would recommend that.
Is there any other contingency?
No, not that I see hanging out there, because a full-scale sample was brought tonight, along with a rendering, picture, or drawing, and the commitment issue is in Condition 6 in the board packet on the July 22nd, 2009 letter attached in the packet.
Alderman Dumas, do you wish to rescind and restate?
I do. I move approval of proposed street signs for Country Club Estates in accordance with the City of Starkville street signage policy, contingent upon conditions stated in number 6 and the receiving of the commitment letter.
Correct.
All right, Alderman Dumas has rescinded his previous motion and restated it to be as follows. He moves approval of the proposed street signs for Country Club Estates in accordance with the City of Starkville street signage policy, contingent upon commitment letter being received in accordance with Section 6 of the signage policy. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
That letter should be addressed to.
You can address it to me. Yeah.
City engineer.
Yeah. Address it to me and copy CAO and city engineer.
Thank you, Alderman.
Thank you. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the approval of the contract with Brickfire for the DHS grant that was approved on September 7th, 2010. And if y'all will recall, grant was approved it's not the ordinary grant that we've approved annually for Brickfire. This was I'll call it a special grant that DHS notified Brickfire was available, and Brickfire subsequently got. That was approved by the board in September. It functions just like the regular grant does, which means that we need a contract for that grant for it to meet the specs of the Department of Human Services. What you have before you is on the table. You've got the most recently revised copy of the contract. The city attorney had some changes that he finalized this afternoon. So that's the document you should consider current for this evening. Is that document in front of them?
It should be.
Okay. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Perkins.
thank you. Ms. Taylor, good evening. How are you? First of all, let me just say that as an alderman, a community person, I want to certainly appreciate you and your organization for all the things that you have done to provide for the betterment of our city. And let me just say this, have you had an opportunity to read this proposed contract? Okay, and the reason I ask that is very friendly, respectful, and I'm full support of your organization, but I just want to make sure that you're going to be able to fulfill the terms, just strictly business here, but that you'll be able to fulfill the terms of the contract and do the things that's required of you. But you're familiar with, you saw the initial contract, you understand what the reporting requirements and basic things that you may be required to do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, and you'll be able to, again, just want to cover the bases, and your organization will be able to do those things in a required and timely manner, and you'll share any information that the city may need, with regard to this contract as it relates to your operations. Right, and it's nothing personal, but I just want to make sure we have a good understanding before we go on record and do that. But again, I appreciate you all, what you do, and I'm going to vote for this, but I just wanted to say this from a legal point of view, okay? Thank you very much.
Okay, and the city attorney would like to speak to the changes that were made to the contract.
Just so everybody's clear on that, I amended sections 3.5 and 3.6. The changes that were made to 3.5 were to put the burden on Brickfire should a dispute occur between MDHS or whoever is administering the grant, between them and Brickfire, that Brickfire would assume the responsibility of hiring professional services and defend that action. The other thing I did in 3.5 was solidify the independent contractor relationship between the city of Starkville and Brickfire, that Brickfire would be an independent contractor and not any kind of agent or employee of the city of Starkville. And then in 3.6, I added an indemnification provision that Brickfire would indemnify and hold Starkville harmless should any dispute arise between the grant issuing agency and Brickfire.
Discussion. Further discussion.
All right, Mr. Latimer. So the indemnification would protect the city if for some reason Brickfire did not comply with the terms of the contract, if there were any audit findings resulting in a repayment to MDHS, Brickfire would be responsible for that rather than the city.
As a matter of law. As a matter of practice, it would be a little bit precarious given the fact that Brickfire gets its funds
Right.
from the grant.
Right.
And there may not be any funds left.
Right.
Further discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? We don't have a motion.
Move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the contract with Brickfire for the DHS grant that was previously approved by the board on September 7th, 2010, as presented. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And the next matter on the agenda is a presentation by Alderman Parker on the proposed changes to the sanitation collection process. Alderman Parker?
Thank you, Mayor. There's a two-page document in front of me that was on our desk when we got here tonight. I'd actually like to start on page 2, and first of all, just kind of give a little brief. What I had asked last board meeting was for us to allow me to go and research the estimated pros and cons and the cost of using a cart system for our sanitation department. So just a little bit of a brief history. Starting on page 2, we have 10,542 residential accounts. Now, that could be residential or apartments. That's basically, we invoice or bill 10,542 people each month for sanitation pickup. We bill 273 accounts for commercial accounts, which would be, and I would ask our sanitation director to make sure that I get my numbers right here, but 273 commercial accounts would be the apartments that we pick up and other commercial accounts that we dump maybe multiple times each week. We have 786 businesses that would require curbside or backdoor pickup. So if you take that first number of 10,542, we have estimated that of those, 7,000 are single-family homes and would require carts. So 7,000 over those 10,000. The 273 commercial accounts would be no change at all, and the 786 businesses would require at least one cart. So using those numbers, we would need to at least purchase at least 10,000 carts to give us a good inventory of carts for the first year. I've got some numbers on the second page we'll go over in a second, but just to go, and this is by no means, these are some things that I've come up with that are some pros and cons of each system, and I won't be able to answer every question tonight. What I would ask the board tonight to do is for us to go over this information, take this information and study it and look at it, and ask the constituents what their opinion is, and then at the next board meeting, we would either begin the process of going to the carts, or we would begin the process of bidding out the bags again. So, by the next board meeting, we could have some information that we can make a decision by. But the benefits of the current bag system, of course, are it is the current system in place, and it's been in place for years. The way the system works is you put your garbage at the end of your driveway or on the road, and sanitation comes by and picks it up. So there's really no effort from the residents' part. They put the garbage at the road and it's picked up, and when they get home, there's nothing they have to do. Of course, if we do have a cart system, we wouldn't have any problem. There's nothing at the road at the end of the day. Again, citizens do like the bags, although from the research that I've done, citizens really like getting the bags, although they're not usually used for their intended purposes. Most of the time they're used for leaves or grass clippings or take somewhere. I mean, most of the time they're not even used for what we're giving them the bags for. The negatives of the current bag system, it is very costly to buy and purchase bags each year. Of course, after it's put at the road, our ordinance says that we can put the bag at the road the night before. Is that correct? So we sometimes have animals getting into bags. We have bags tearing because of wind or spilling out contents. On rainy days, the bags are just out, so they're collecting water, making our loads heavier that we're taking to the landfill. We have increased labor costs because we actually deliver the bags to your doorstep twice a year. We have increased workman's comp claims from our sanitation workers actually handling the bags, if they have glass in them, cut glass in them, if they have needles in them, and sometimes the bags are just heavy in general. So we We feel like, we know that our workman's comp claims, and I've got some numbers over here to reflect that, our increased workman's comp claims. And again, the negative is we're giving them a bag, and sometimes it's not used as it was intended. From my experience, looking at other cities and the way other cities handling it that have a cart system, the benefits of going to a cart. And when we say a cart, we're talking about a 96-gallon cart with wheels that you roll to the road on your garbage pickup day. And at the end of the day, of course, you'd be required to move that cart back to your residence at the end of the day. The benefits of a system like that are we have much lower long-term cost. We have lower workman's comp claims, potentially have lower workman's comp claims because we're not handling the bags. The bags, they would roll the cart to the back of the rear-loading garbage truck. We would have a hydraulic mechanism that actually dumps the cart into the back of the truck. So they no longer handle the bags themselves. So that reduces the risk of injury from those bags. It's a cleaner, more sanitary system. It's neater and cleaner appearance on garbage day, so you don't have the potential of loose garbage bags with loose garbage around, and you don't have garbage bags sitting at the road all day. They're actually in a container. You have better identification of the refuge that's need to be picked up. In other words, if they're in a really busy area, or if somebody put out one bag of garbage, sanitation may actually not see that one small bag of garbage and pass by it, where if the cart's out there, it's a very identifiable that there's trash to be picked up. It's a safer and better work environment for our workers, and it also, for the residents, it makes the storage of their garbage easier during the week. You have something to put your garbage in during the week while you're waiting for your garbage pickup. The negatives of the system are, of course, change. Any change in general is going to be extremely difficult. That's the hardest part. Startup cost by going to that system pretty much mean that you're dedicated to 6 years. Once you spend the money to buy the carts, lease the carts, you're going to have to stay on that system for 6 years to make the savings and pay off. You could potentially have theft and damage of carts. You could have the perception that there is such a big cart that they're hard to push down to the road, which I think we can handle that argument fairly easily, in that they're very well balanced. Initially, you're going to have longer route times for the trucks because it's a new system for them, and it would take them longer to do their route initially. There would be also, in the ordinance, we would require, in the solid waste ordinance, we would require those carts to be pulled back at the end of the day. So we have an issue where residents could face fines if they don't bring their cart back. And of course, we no longer distribute bags. Part of this system would be that we no longer give residents bags. They would be required to bag their garbage inside their can. Some of the numbers on the first page that I ran, and these are extremely conservative numbers in that I haven't taken the liberty in any way I'll just go over each one of them. The annual bag expense, the line item in our budget is $160,000 for bags each year. Now this year, in fiscal year 2010, we spent a little over $100,000 on bags because the commodity pricing was extremely low and we were able to save. So the actual bag expense each year is $125,000. Our sanitation workers actually distribute the bags to the doorstep of each resident, and we can't do that during the normal work week, so we actually do that on weekends. So we pay overtime for the workers to come in on Saturday and distribute those bags twice a year. So we've got approximately $20,000 of overtime labor that we pay to distribute those bags each year. That makes our direct cost of those bags $145,000 each year. The numbers that I just can't get a good handle on that are more indirect costs are, of course, you have mileage and wear and tear on equipment while you're distributing the bags and while you're passing the bags out. But the workman's comp claims, over the past 3 years, our workman's comp has paid out over $120,000. I really couldn't put a number on that and say if this system is safer and better that we're going to reduce that by 50%. Although that, from the research I have done, that's common to reduce your workman's comp claims by 50% going to a cart system. Basically, our savings would be, we would have lower workman's comp claims, which would make our insurance rates lower, and we would also have the risk modifier that they use to set our rates would be we would get a better rate because of the risk modifier, because they wouldn't be directly handling the garbage. So I actually put no money in there. I did not increase our cost for those numbers. They're extremely important, because that's, worker safety is a really big aspect of this whole system. If we converted to a cart system, as I said before, we would need to purchase 10,000 carts to give us, that would give us 8,000 that we distribute, and that would give us about 2,000 carts in reserve for carts that were lost or stolen, or residents that we didn't know were there that we needed to pass out. We're allowed to purchase those carts on a 6-year, $1 buyout lease, which means you basically finance that purchase over 6 years. At the end of the 6 years, you own the carts. By an average cart, to purchase those carts, our annual payment would be $105,000, $105,000 is approximately what our payment would be on those 10,000 carts for 6 years. I left a line item in there to distribute carts, although our initial purchase of 10,000 carts would include the vendor delivering the cart to each resident and recording each serial number of each cart to the resident that they deliver it to. So we would have a record of where each individual cart, at what resident it belongs to. But I still have a line item in there for labor throughout the year. If we have a missing, a stolen, or new residents that come in and we need to give them a new cart, I've left in $10,000 of labor to distribute those carts throughout the year. I've also left in a $10,000 line item budget to purchase additional carts each year. I used Lee County has 16,000 carts in use in Lee County. We would have 8,000 carts in use. They spend on average between $10,000 and $15,000 a year on replacement carts. So we have half the amount of carts, but I've still left that line item at $10,000 because we are probably a more transient community than Lee County. So we may have a few more replacements than they do. But that number is a very conservative number in $10,000 a year. That brings our direct cost to carts to $125,000 for the first 6 years. Now the carts that you purchase have a 10-year warranty. So they have a 10-year lifespan or 10-year warranty that they're covered for damage. So anytime in that 10 years, what you do is you build those carts up, you build those damaged carts up, and you send those carts back to the vendor, and they replace those carts with new carts. So the warranty goes 10 years, so there's no reason we can't use those carts in the city for 10 years. So for years 7 through 10, there's no lease payment. You already own the carts. So you see significant savings in years 7 to 10. We would have a one-time cost of approximately $30,000 to convert our existing garbage trucks to hydraulically flip these carts. So if you take all those numbers together at the bottom, the cost of bags over 10 years is approximately $1,450,000. The cost of carts over 10 years is about $861,000. So over the course of 10 years, the city could potentially save $590,000 in our sanitation budget. Even after 6 years, when you've got the lease payments, we're saving $389,000 over the course of just the first 6 years. So as I said, to make that commitment, you would need to make the commitment for 6 years because you're paying for the carts over 6 years. And then after 6 years, if you decided you didn't like the system and you wanted to go back to the bags, you've still saved $389,000 over the course of the first 6 years. So you still have that revenue, or you still have that built up in your fund. So, I'd like to get some input from the board on questions there's no way I can answer every question tonight, but I'd like to if you have any questions of what I've kind of gone over here, I know it's a lot of information. That's why I wanted to give everybody time to digest it and call me at any time. But if you have any questions here tonight, I'd love to answer any questions and just get the board's input on what their opinion of the difference between a cart and a bag system like we currently use.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.
Called backdoor pickup.
Yes, sir.
The sanitation department actually goes to the back door and picks up the bag for you. The same thing would apply to the carts. They would still have a cart, but they would put their trash in the cart, and then we would have backdoor service to the cart. So yes, we would still continue to offer that service.
If a commercial business would want to purchase more, their volume is so high they need it, would they have the option to buy additional
They would
carts?
have the option to actually lease a cart from us if they needed 2 or 3 carts. And what we would have to do, that would be we'd have to work that into the system. In other words, everybody will get a cart free, but we do know that some businesses they're gonna need 2 or 3 or 4 carts, and those could be leased from the city at a monthly lease rate. Haven't determined that. If the way we handle that now is they get bags right now, and if they run out of bags quickly, and our sanitation director realizes that if their volume of garbage is such that they're using bags quickly, then we require them to get a front load container.
Okay.
So it'd be the same policy. If they're using too many carts, then we would require a front load container.
The only 2 things I see just vices with this or negatives that may come out of this would be, one, the code enforcement officer being responsible for the actual patrol. Say people weren't picking their carts up and they were getting damaged, and maybe having to hire an additional personnel over the years to patrol 10,000 residents, or I guess it'd be complaint driven. And then the second one would be the speed of delivery, because I know these guys, I'm going to say our sanitation workers, when they come through our neighborhood, they're fast. They're really fast on and off, and just, the time it would take to get the same amount of houses up. I guess they get all 10,000 residents in a day.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean,
residents.
initially, you would probably, over the course of the first month, you would probably add 2 hours to their routes. But over the course of that month, after a month, from what I've seen in history, is they get that time back down to, literally almost the same time they were doing it before. Once you get the system, because it's easy to roll that cart to the back, hit a lever and flip it. But yes, initially they are going to have some longer route times. Now, there's nothing we can, there will never be a route we couldn't pick up in a day because we went to this system.
Further questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Mr. Mayor, let me just briefly say, I want to thank the gentleman from Ward 3 for his presentation. Just some observations, if I may just weigh in on this. From the onset, I want to say that our current system, and these are my opinions solely, our system is not broken in my opinion, and therefore it does not need fixing. Given the history of the pickup of household garbage in the city of Starkville, there has been a usage of garbage bags. The sanitation department has done a very good job in distributing the garbage bags, and they do a very good job in picking up the household garbage 2 days a week per route. I am not aware of any public mandate. I'm not aware of any public outcry. I'm not aware of any information that has been shared with us through any media network or any alertment to our governing body of any change in the system. This use of garbage bag goes back for decades, and of course, in light of the fact that the system is serving us well, I don't really see any need to change. Certainly some of the negatives could be, is the gentleman from 3 mentioned, the cost of the one-time cost of purchasing the containers, the assumed loss rate that's involved, the cost of retrofitting the trucks. Some further negatives are, as I mentioned, and the gentleman from 3 mentioned, the potential turmoil from the public perception of the change. I am of the conservative mindset, don't change just because it can be changed. Is there a prudent need? Is there an urgent and necessitous governmental reason to change? What is the legitimate governmental interest to change? And I'm not aware of any. It is our duty as a city to ensure that we promote the health, safety, and the welfare of our citizens, and we are certainly doing that through our current method. It would appear to me that there would need to be some training requirements that would be a negative for our personnel department, because it is my understanding that this truck that's going to be using picking up the carts is going to have to come to a complete stop at each location, and this can be envisioned as to the length of time that it's going to take to get the garbage emptied. I have not seen any figures outside the gentleman from 3 as to the workers' comp claims. There could be an argument, absent data here, that the workers' comp claims could increase. It just depends upon the contents of the carts. The sanitation workers work very speedily in a safe manner, as I have observed them, and as has been reported to the board. They move in at great pace in a very safe way. The trucks understand they have a route to make, and I would envision that the speed would consistently be decreased. There's a question from the gentleman from Aldermen from Ward 1 about the handicap and the elderly, and that is something that has to be considered. The handicap, the elderly, the disabled, and there's some people that's not going to have the physical strength and capacity to push a cart to the street. It may seem light to those of us who are physically able, but if there is a sizable number of those persons, it is going to take a lot of individualized services from the sanitation department, pulling up this driveway. If we get the request, they have to be honored. That is something that may arise, and we have a lot of senior citizens in this town, and they just are not going to be able to push those carts. People on canes and other instruments that assist them with their walking. The additional costs involved, there could be some potential cart injuries to our residents. All the residents is not going to be as careful as others. Have that issue involved. The potential difficulties in very dense neighborhoods. The quantity of residents of student population that's less prone to have responsibilities for the carts. As a negative, we're going to have to deal with the method of distribution and accountability for the carts, the property owners versus the account holders. Further, we'll have the potential increased paperwork for the administration of the system of accountability and replacement. And finally, one other negative that I understand this time would be the increased code enforcement. The gentleman from 1 mentioned that would demand due to carts left on the streets. So with all these things said, we need to approach this carefully. And I always say this, that the votes may be in place to do this, but at the same time, what's the urgent about this? What's the necessity about this? Is the current system not working? And is the current system flawed? I'm not aware of any flaw. From the reports we get from the Sanitation Environmental Services Director, the current sanitation system is working sufficiently. There's no problems. I'm not aware of being briefed by the CAO at this board about any problem. So the bag system predates, many directives, predates Mr. Webb's years. I remember Mr. Anderson, before my time, was sanitation director that predates it. And also, you know, we get the comparison to what other cities are doing. Let me just say this respectfully. Just because other cities are doing it does not necessarily mean we need to do it for Starkville. And these things are just my personal opinions, and they do not in any way bemoan what the gentleman from 3 is trying to do. I just want to share my opinions on it. I respect what he has to say, and I'm going to respect the will of the board. But in closing, I would like for us to give very careful consideration of what is best for Starkville. Is this something that the public is mandating? Is this something that where a survey has been done? Have we had any public hearings on this? Have we given the public a chance to comment on this? And certainly, this is our first time hearing about this at this length tonight. There's mention for us to perhaps consider and vote on it at the next meeting, but I think we need to move forward with this very carefully. If adopted by the board, this will be a very major and substantive change in the manner and technique and way in which we, the city, pick up household garbage. So I am urging the board in a very respectful way to let's proceed this very cautiously and carefully. The gentleman from 3 gave us some good information, and I hope that we can just apply the balancing test as to what is in the best interest for the entire city of Starkville. So with that being said, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to yield the floor.
Alderman Dennis?
Alderman Parker, I got a couple of questions. This lease payment, payback in 6 years, it's a 10-year lease. I know we've talked about this before, but.
6-year lease.
It's a 6-year lease, okay. The warranty of the cart is 10 years. Is that correct? Is there an option to lease the cart for the life of the warranty?
I don't know if we're allowed to lease something for that long of a term. From the information I gathered, the longest we can lease something was 6 years. It could possibly be. I just didn't have a chance to do that much research.
The 10,000 carts you're talking about is waste only, right?
Say again?
The 10,000 carts you're talking about is waste only, is that correct?
It is. It is.
So these costs that we're seeing on here does not
It's only for
account the green bags that we give out for free
Right.
for recycling, et
Right.
cetera. I've had the good fortune of living elsewhere that utilized a cart system, and I must say that it was I enjoyed it very much, to the point that I now use carts at my own house that, although are not provided by the city, I use them. And I think in that fact alone, from everything that you've mentioned, I understand the negatives, but the benefits of this whole system outweigh the negatives from my standpoint by a long ways. And I think even to the point that I'd like to even push it even further, because I think we've got the opportunity with a 96-gallon cart to institutionalize a change that would be even more cost savings to the city from the standpoint, and I think Mr. Okwisi hit on this. You know, someone who deals with recycling daily at the university, deals with somebody who deals with waste from the facility side at the university daily. I understand the workman's comp. I understand the danger of bags. And I'd like to see us go to a cart system recycling-wise, too. And I think the same math could work there. I know we've been able and been fortunate enough to secure grant monies to buy green bags for recycling. I don't know if that option will be there forever. But I think when we look at the life cycle cost of this, and I think we have to get away from the fact that we're looking at, you know, the one-time initial cost of this versus the life cycle cost of this, because I see the recurring cost and even the savings. When we look at the magnitude of $600,000 over a 10-year period, that's substantial. You know, when you break that down yearly and you're somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000, you know, in the budget situation like we have had this year, I think that becomes apparent that even $60,000 yearly, or if you look at it from life cycle, $60,000 or $600,000 over the period of this project is pretty substantial. And I think Mr. Okwisi brings up a good point when you look at the economics of this, from the fact that, you know, every tonnage of every pound of trash that we take to the landfill is something that we're charged for. And frankly, I think our rates now are getting to a point where they're helping those costs, but I don't know if we're still to the point where our sanitation rates cover the full cost of this when you take everything into account. I think they probably do, but I don't know. But the key with that is that now that we have a recycling system in place in which we get revenue generation from commodity cost, and we get other type things there, I think we can even push the economic envelope to the point to where we have two carts, and I'm just suggesting this, of looking at the options here, of not only having waste carts but recycling carts. And when you go to a 96-gallon cart, I fully believe that we can do with 1 day a week pickup with either item. And I think that that's completely something that's on the table. I know that's probably something that everybody doesn't want to hear from the standpoint of just going to a cart, but I know from my own self, I wouldn't fill up half a cart in 1 week, a 96-gallon cart with waste, and I have 6 people in my family, 4 kids. We generate a lot of trash. And I think when the realities of this thing hit, I think when we push the economics of it, and I'm not saying we mandate recycling, but I think we give the option there of really helping these things. So I'm very encouraged by what you show. I have utmost support of this, and I hope that we can continue this conversation so that we can look at other avenues of looking at it through waste, recycling, and even looking at the recycling and waste schedule so that we can maximize that for the entire system.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Vaughn.
What's sticking out in my mind is $20,000 overtime, you say twice a year. Have this been evaluated to try to cut this overtime? Have we tried to find a different way to do it so we won't have to do this on overtime?
Not at this point, no, because these numbers, I just got these numbers, so we haven't analyzed those individual numbers at all. I'm just speculating in that it's such a vast task to distribute bags. I don't know, maybe Ms. Boyd can answer, but it's such a dedicated task to distribute bags. She's doing it with her current personnel, and they're on routes 5 days a week. Right now, they're for sure on routes 5 days a week, 4 days for trash and 1 day for recycling. So, but yeah, we can. I'll be glad to look at that. Yeah.
It still should be evaluated to see can you cut that cost, see can the bags be delivered during the pickup time. And another thing sticking, if the pickup backdoor pickup will increase, so that means you're gonna end up hiring another employee or two, because the backdoor, because you got so many, like the gentleman from Ward 1 said, disabled and elderly people, you're gonna end up going to the back door picking up a lot of carts.
Correct. Anybody that's on a backdoor pickup now would definitely convert over to a backdoor cart pickup for sure. There is a possibility of the elderly filling out paperwork to, if they're over a certain age, if they can't fill a cart. You're right. There could be an increased backdoor pickup service.
It's going to be an increase because some can carry a bag. Some elderly can carry a bag, cannot push a cart. Some disabled can carry a bag, but cannot push a cart. So there's going to be an increase there.
Sure.
This truck conversion, I'm sorry.
I'm finished.
This truck conversion, is that for 2 lifts per truck or 1 lift?
Be 2 lifts per truck on our main tandem axle garbage trucks. We have the board has approved for sanitation to buy a smaller 8 or 10 yard truck. That truck would only have 1 lift on the back because it's a smaller capacity.
So we could still have 2 folks riding on the back of the truck?
Yeah, absolutely. I would not envision taking anybody off the truck.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, the next matter on the agenda is a report from the Technology Committee. Alderman Corey?
The only item that we discussed was already approved on our consent agenda involving the IT position that we budgeted for and finalizing the job description for that, and then also sort of resetting it so that Al's position would report to that new IT manager position, and that was pretty much the bulk of my report on that.
Questions or comments for Alderman Corey? Questions or comments? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, that will conclude our board business, and without objection, I'm going to move us into a brief recess. Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, meeting will now come back to order. The next matter on the agenda is two matters from the planning department. The first is consideration of the approval of P&Z item number CU 10-05. Mr. Griffith?
Mayor and Board, item CU 10-05 is a request by Florida Care Properties to allow a day training center for mentally and physically challenged adults in the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district. The subject property is located at the northwestern corner of North Montgomery Street and Walmack Road in Ward 6 and will affect approximately 0.93 acres of land. The applicant is proposing to construct a new building to relocate from the present location on Highway 389. Florida Care presently serves approximately 75 clients per day and provides classes in horticulture, light woodworking, laundry, housekeeping, arts and crafts, and daily living skills. The severity of the client's disabilities determines which classes they will attend. This type of use is not specifically called out in the chart of permitted uses of the city's Code of Ordinances. However, Section I-3C1 states that a proposed use not specifically called out may be reviewed as a conditional use application at the pleasure of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. 19 property owners of record within 300 feet of the subject property were notified directly by mail of the request. A public hearing notice was published in the September 24th edition of the Starkville Daily News and a placard posted on the site concurrent with the notice. The planning office received no inquiries regarding the request, and the only persons who spoke at the public hearing were the applicants. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the conditional use request with 7 conditions.
Discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Burke.
I move that we approve the request of Florida Care Properties to allow a day training center for mentally and physically challenged adults in the C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district located at the northwestern corner of North Montgomery Street and Womack Road with the 7 conditions unanimously recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Alderman Perkins has made a motion to approve the request by Florida Care Properties to allow a day training center for mentally and physically challenged adults in C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District located at the northwest corner of North Montgomery Street and Walmack Road with the 7 conditions unanimously recommended by the P&Z Commission. Is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the
No,
matter?
sir. No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the approval of P&Z item number FP 10-07. Mr. Griffith?
Mayor and Board, item FP 10-07 is a request by Mr. Greg Russell for approval of Preferred Care Subdivision, a preliminary final subdivision plat located in a C1 neighborhood commercial zoning district. The subject property is located at the northwestern corner of North Montgomery Street and Walmack Road in Ward 6. The applicant is proposing a subdivision plat of 2 lots for an approximate 3.41 acre site. All utilities will be provided by the City of Starkville. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the preliminary final subdivision plat as proposed with the 8 conditions proposed by city staff.
Discussion. Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve the Preferred Care Subdivision final subdivision plat located at the northwestern corner of North Montgomery Street and Womack Road as proposed with 8 conditions as unanimously recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Alderman Perkins has made a motion to approve the Preferred Care Subdivision final subdivision plat located at the northwest corner of North Montgomery Street and Walmack Road as proposed with 8 conditions as unanimously recommended by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Alderman Perkins, that's your motion?
Yes, sir, Mr.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Alderman Carver.
Would this sidewalk be on North Montgomery?
Mr.
Yes,
Griffin.
it goes around both, the entire corner, yes, sir.
The east-west, I mean, it's gonna make that whole block of that loop?
Yes, sir, as it's shown on the plat.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
Thank you, Mayor Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. The next matter on the agenda is the request for approval of the City of Starkville Fire Department claims docket as of October 28, 2010.
Mayor, I'm asked to recuse myself.
We'll give Alderman Carver a moment to exit the room. So moved. Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the City of Starkville Fire Department claims docket as of October 28, 2010. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. We'll give Alderman Carver a moment to re-enter the room. The next matters on the agenda are from the fire department. The first is a request for authorization to suspend the safety officer course 1521, requirement from fire department promotional requirements, pending the update of the department manual. Chief Mann?
Hey, board, for those of you that don't know, this is our training officer, Charles Yarbo. He's been working with me on this the whole time, and I wanted him to bring him up in case he had some questions that I couldn't answer here tonight. But I'm requesting for the suspension of the safety officer class from the requirement to promote within our fire department. I'm requesting a suspension primarily because of the scope of the class has changed since the time it was placed in the policy manual in July 17th of '07. The advantage the city recognizes after sending a firefighter, I'm sorry.
Mayor, I'm gonna ask to recuse myself due to my father being on the.
And we'll give Alderman Carver a moment to exit the room.
I'm sorry. I should have.
Chief?
The advantage that the city recognizes for sending a firefighter to this class versus the cost that's involved is minimal. This class has a significant impact on our training budget, but it has a more impact on our overtime line item. So both of those together equals a significant impact on our budget. The request is similar to a request made to the then board of September 16th of '08, where a request to suspend the fire inspector requirement was requested and granted. And I'm sure that Alderman Corey and Alderman Perkins will recall that request. And I have touched base with the city attorney on this, and obviously Randy, our personnel director, Mr. Boyd, we've talked with him almost on a daily basis on this. So I assure the board that removing this requirement will not diminish the our officers' ability in any way. It will not impact the day-to-day operations of our department, only in a positive way from the budget standpoint. And it will have absolutely no impact on any fire scene whatsoever. Having said that, I'll try to answer any questions.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may, Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Fire Chief, are you in the process of this time of going through a promotional process of employees in the department being considered for promotions?
Yes, sir.
And are you at this time considering promotions for anyone to be promoted to the safety officer?
No, sir. No, sir. To the safety officer?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. The safety officer is a class. It's not a position within the department. This is just a class that is required in your march to the next rank.
How long has this safety officer course been required?
Since July the 17th of '07.
And why are we just picking this time right now while promotions are going on to just come before us to seek a suspension of this safety officer requirement course?
Actually, Alderman Perkins, in in September of '08, when I brought before the board the inspector, the request to remove the inspector. I referred to that, but at that time, it was, the inspector was the only thing that was on the agenda, on the line item, and I didn't see to it that this got put there.
But my question is, why are you bringing it, the timing of it, why are you bringing it now, while you're considering promotions?
Because I've been working on an amended rule book that I want to present to the board. And I wanted to, and that was going to be removed from the new policy manual.
Mr. Mayor, I have one question to the city attorney. Mr. Attorney, do you see any legal problems that could put us in a precarious situation with request number 1?
And let me ask some questions to flesh out the facts to be able to answer that question. And Chief, feel free to weigh in on this, or if it's more appropriate for Mr. Boyd. Does the current Starkville Fire Department Policies and Procedure Manual have any authority in there that allows your request?
That allows us to
to do
change
what
it?
you're trying to do. Is it addressed in the Policies and Procedure Manual at all?
It doesn't allow me to do that, no.
Well, allow you to bring this presentation to the board and then allow the board to approve it. I mean, is it addressed at all in your Policies and Procedures Manual?
It does say in there that it's obviously addressed, that I have to go to you to get it changed or anything.
But does it address removing a requirement, a
No.
class requirement for promotion?
No, sir, it doesn't.
Okay. Mr. Boyd, does any other Starkville policy or procedure manual generally speak to the issue?
Let me go back to Chief Mann's answer to your question. The fire department personnel policy does provide the fire chief and the city the right to change or discontinue policies or provisions. That's spelled out on page 122 of the personnel policy of the fire department. So the policy manual does allow for change to occur. As far as any other policy of the city that prohibits this, no.
And are you aware of any other law that speaks to removing a class that would be necessary for promotional requirements in a city employee context?
No.
Okay. Mayor and Alderman Perkins, you asked the question. My opinion is, since this is not expressly prescribed by law, it would likely fall under the chief's discretion pursuant to this board's approval. However, I do see some legal snarls that could potentially result from the arrangement. The cleanest thing to do legally would be to wait and just amend the policy, as the chief said he's in the process of doing, rather than go through with a conditional promotion that's not really written or addressed in the policy. I see two precedential concerns in it. The chief has a good reason for conditional promotion, and that is...
Let me stop you for just a second. Are you going to go any further down a road that might be discussing what potential litigation might be?
No.
Okay.
Two potential problems precedentially. One would be, this is a good reason for a conditional promotion. People are not being able to go to a class because there's no money in the budget. I worry that it would open up a can of worms, that somebody would have another argument for a conditional promotion based on a lesser reason. And the second precedential concern would be that doing this at the fire department would allow another city agency to argue that conditional promotions ought to be done there. Those are my two legal concerns.
Further discussion. Alderman Ball.
This safety course is not needed anymore, or it's not important no more?
No, sir. The course content has changed to the point that it's not beneficial for us to be sending our people to that course. We've got 6 other classes that are required of these guys that they have to meet in order to promote. And this makes the 7th one.
So you have your budget can fund the other classes that you're talking, the other courses that you're talking about?
Yes, sir. We have, with our budget situation, I'm operating on about 45% of the training budget that I had at the adoption of this policy. So, and I have to do something in order to keep things moving forward. And this was a class that has very low benefit to us. So I had to make some type of sacrifice somewhere in order to get the guys the basic things that they have to have coming up. This is one of the last classes that they have to have in order to move into that next threshold.
And did you have anything else?
I was just going to say, if it's not beneficial, why you hadn't moved it for now?
Well, again, I was planning on doing this in the new policy manual, and with the retirement of Captain Teague in the end of June, that kind of threw a little bit of a snare in our plans.
Did you mention that you thought this had taken place when you made the prior amendments to the manual, but in looking at this found that it didn't happen in 2008?
Yes, and that's my mistake. That I talked about it, that there was other classes that need to be addressed that night, but the inspector was the only one that was removed that night. And I'm assuming, going back to my notes, I'm assuming it was that way because that's all that had gotten put on the agenda.
All right, let me speak to this for just a second, because I had a couple of lengthy conversations with Chief Mann about this last week when he was considering whether to go forward with placing this on the agenda or not. And the first question I had for him is, and this is with respect to both of the potential changes that'll be discussed tonight, is this a recommendation that you would make because you think it's in the best interest of the fire department? And he said yes, and offered the explanations that he'll offer you. And he's much more versed in the reasons why than I am, so I'll let those stand on their own. But as I looked at it, where I get a comfort level in having a change or changes of this nature at this point in time is the type of document that we're dealing with. This is internal policy made by the board for promotions within the department. It's not an ordinance or anything that rises to a higher legal level. The other factor is in dealing with promotions, you're dealing with candidates who are all internal. Because initially I might have had a concern that the application process had already begun for something like this and the effect that it might have. All of the effect is something that would happen internal. And finally, I guess where I'm persuaded beyond just it being a recommendation of the chief that he thinks is in the best interest of his department's promotional process is these are both things that he realized the urgency of as he started to look at the number of people that will be made ineligible if these two requirements are adhered to as rigidly as they currently stand. So I don't think it's too late in the process to adjust what's there, especially considering what it is. It is a rule essentially that the board has made for the fire department. I think it is timely and appropriate if the board considers it to be good policy on the merits to adjust that rule at this point in the process. Discussion.
I got a couple of questions. I guess just to understand you correctly, when this course came to be and we started going to it, it was a good safety class that taught things the way that we needed them to be taught, and now as time has progressed, it's really not going to those principles. And I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but we're not getting what we should out of this class. It's costing a significant amount of money.
We've actually got very few people that have this class because of the benefit that it gives. And I've actually had one of the guys that has the class has stated that it should be removed. He has it. It doesn't matter to him. but he still feels that it should be removed from the requirement.
And I guess as we look at the promotional side of this, we've got numbers of individuals who have not been able to take this internally that are not eligible as it currently stands to promote because of budgetary constraints. They were not able to take this class. Is that right?
That's correct.
Further discussion? Alderman Court.
No, that's okay.
Alderman Parker.
I just have one about the promotion period. So and you haven't started reviewing the applicants for your promotional process. Is the deadline passed or?
The deadline closed at 5 o'clock this afternoon.
So you haven't officially actually taken those and
No.
started reviewing those
I have no
applications
idea.
yet?
I have no idea how many even applied. I've actually been told by people that qualify to promote that they're not even going to apply for the position. I don't know why, but they're not.
Chief, do you not know the numbers of, don't you know the numbers of people?
I do. It's 15 people that would be affected by this if we don't remove this from the requirement or suspend it from the requirement. No.
Further discussion? Let me interject, I guess, a little more. That is, I obviously have no first-hand knowledge and very little second-hand knowledge about what goes on in this safety class. However, the fire chief has stated that this is a program that is substantially different than what it once was when the requirement was originally placed. And in his professional opinion, that we rely on to make all of these requirements, it is not something as it currently stands that should be in the manual. So, Alderman Davis.
If the applicants today applied knowing that this was a mandate, is that correct? Mm-hmm. Do we know if you don't know if anyone applied assuming that this requirement would then be removed from the manual?
Yes.
Or suspended?
Everybody knew that I want this removed and I'm going to ask for this to be removed. We had meetings last week on that, and I told them all that they should apply, not to let anything keep them from applying for the next position.
Even if they did not have this safety class?
Even if they did not, if they were not eligible by our rule book, I told them that they still should apply. If there was any doubt, that they should go on and apply.
Mr. Mayor, one question. But at the time that they applied, this safety course requirement was still in effect though, correct? At the time that they applied, the
yes.
safety course requirement is still in effect?
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Dumas?
What was, restate your concerns, Chris.
Just two precedential values, one being that there's a nice solid hook to this conditional promotion, and that is that people aren't allowed to attend the class because the city can't afford for them to attend the class. My fear is that it would open up for other arguments that would be less persuasive than that we should be conditionally promoted for other reasons. And then secondly, to the extent that another city department could point to the Starkville Fire Department and say, well, they're conditionally promoting over there, why can't we do it here? But my original, the foundation was that I don't think the chief's request is prescribed by law, meaning that it's not forbidden by law. I think he's got discretion because nothing speaks to it right now.
And if we suspend the requirement, that's considered conditional promotion?
Well, it's a two-phase. I understand there being two issues before the board, and one is suspending the requirement, and number two, consideration of the promotions in light of the suspended requirement.
Right.
Further discussion?
Can I say one more thing?
Chief.
I don't think you're going to get much objection from anybody within our department on this. I think we might get one or two that's going to say something about it. I don't think there's going to be no major objection from anybody.
Alderman Court.
Well, I'll say that I feel like you've at least given justification and reasons for why you are requesting this, and In regards to the potential precedent of other departments asking for that, I would ask the same of them. If there was ever a situation where another department wanted some sort of additional promotion, I would expect them to provide justification as you have. So that said, I would move that we grant permission to suspend the safety officer course number 1521 requirement from the fire department promotional requirements until departmental policy manual can be updated to officially reflect said change.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to approve the granting of permission to suspend the safety officer course 1521 requirement from the fire department promotional requirements until department's policy manual can be updated to officially remove the class. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Parker. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No thanks.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
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 All right, I have, let's take this by roll call. Please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Sistrum,
Yay.
Alderman Parker,
Yay.
Alderman Corey,
Yay.
Alderman Dumas,
Yay.
Alderman Perkins,
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn.
Nay.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. And 1 recused. All right, the next matter on the agenda is the request for authorization to modify the treatment of the requirement for course training as it relates to the promotional process for the current round of promotional testing and evaluation. And you got a memo on this earlier, and I'll also ask the chief to give us a brief explanation.
Mayor and Board, we're going through our promotional process of trying to select the right candidate for the vacancies or subsequent vacancies that's going to be made by filling the captain slot left vacant by Stuart T. And we're trying to do these under the current rule book, which was adopted July 17th, 007. This is the first promotion that we've had under this rule book. And the fire department policy manual sets forth certain requirements that the employee must meet in order to be qualified for promotion to the next rank. And among these requirements are certain courses that the employee must complete. These courses are taught at the State Fire Academy and are paid by the City of Starkville. The policy manual also states that the employee will be afforded the opportunity. Due to restricted budgets that we face, and we've talked about the amount of money that I have in trying to help work ourselves through this issue that we've got, we've not been able to send people to the academy to the rate that we normally have in order to obtain things like this. We've had some situations where employees were enrolled and in line to attend the academy, and it had to be canceled because of overtime. I depleted my overtime line item, and I simply could not afford to send anybody else to the academy. And that's made it where certain employees do not meet the criteria to be eligible to promote. It's primarily evident in the level of the number of firefighters trying to promote to the rank of sergeant. Under our policy manual, if an employee needed to complete, or under our old policy manual, the one before July 17, 2007, if an employee liked one class to be eligible to promote, that employee was allowed to go through the promotional process. And if that employee was fortunate enough to wind up as the top candidate, then he was given the promotion on a conditional that he would go to the academy, obtain that one course that he needed, and he had to pass that course or he lost that promotion and went back to his prior rank. And that's essentially what we're asking you to consider tonight with considering the effects that our budgets has had on our firefighters being able to go to class and all. I think in your packet, there was 6 conditions that we wanted to attach that to, and this is only for this promotion, for this one promotion. This is not asking anything to be suspended from now on. This is just for this one promotion to basically get people eligible who would have been eligible had we been able to send them to the academy over the last year and a half.
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Chief, just a couple of questions. Got comments on, I'm actually city attorney a question. So you're asking this board to modify courses as relates to this current promotional process. Is that correct? You want the board to modify courses regarding this promotional process that's going on right now, correct?
Yes, I want to allow a person to take a promotional test that has not had that one course. Only the people who were in line to go get that course. In other words, the academy had already accepted them in and was waiting on them to come down. I had to cancel those people from going down because of our overtime situation.
So in other words, you want that to apply to this process, right? To the current promotions?
To this one promotion, yes. This current
Now,
promotion.
so I understand that if I am a sergeant in the fire department, if I'm trying to go up to the lieutenant and the promotional rules and guidelines require that I take 5 courses to be promoted, then under your proposal, I can take just 4 courses and go into the promotion. Is that correct?
Yes, but those are, you would be lacking one class, which is the 1021, which are their prerequisites, and the 1021 is the last class that you need to take. So
Right.
all these individuals would be lacking the 1021 class.
Right. Mr. Mayor, I have a question to the city attorney. Mr. Attorney, and I'm going to say this and make you a question, what it appears to me is that this would amount to a special accommodation. What the fire chief is asking us to do is he's asking us to allow him to consider an employee in the fire department to be considered for consideration for promotional purposes, but yet that employee does not meet all of the promotional criteria and guideline. It appears to me, Mr. Attorney, that if a person is going to be eligible for promotion in the fire department or in any department, that employee should meet all of the required materials, guidelines, and all the promotional guidelines at the time that the promotion is considered. In other words, Mr. Attorney, I don't think that it would protect us legally, and you may disagree with me, if we modify the rules and the promotional procedures of the fire department and allow an exception for this current promotional process. What the chief is asking is, if he has a person who is a sergeant in the fire department who is trying to move to lieutenant, and that person required to have 4 courses, it appeared to me that that person should have all those courses at the time the promotional is considered, but yet he wants us to allow the modification so the person can take 3 courses, get promoted, and then take another course later. So my question to you is, are we going to be on safe legal ground as a board if we allow this criteria to be modified at a promotion that is process that is in current place and effect, in the current regulations for the promotion saying that you have to take all these courses, but in the middle of this stream with these applicants who are up for promotion, in the middle of this process, the chief wants to say, look, we're going to fix to change the rules, and you don't have to take all these requirements. Is this going to take me to federal court in violation, or state court in violation of our court-approved employment process of the city of Starkville, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I understand your concerns, and I agree with you that the cleanest thing to do would be to make sure everyone complies with all the requirements before they're promoted. I understand the policy and procedure manual to say that they also must be afforded an opportunity to take those courses. And right now, they're not being afforded an opportunity to take those courses due to the budgetary constraints, and therein lies the rub. My analysis is really the same on this issue as it was on the other issue, because they're really, one and the same globally, I think, from a legal analysis standpoint, which is, again, the safest legal ground would be to have everyone comply with the requirements. But I don't know that amending it this way to allow a conditional promotion under these circumstances would necessarily be prescribed by law. Therefore, I think the chief has discretion to do this.
Because
Alderman Parker.
if I'm correct, if somebody has been offered a chance to take a class and they refused, if they refuse to go take a class, they can't be, this wouldn't apply to them. Is that correct?
No.
So this would only apply to people that are in line or have not been authorized to take that class because we told them they couldn't.
It goes even a step further than that. It would apply to people that were in line, made an affirmative attempt to take the class, and were told they couldn't because the city didn't have the funding for them to go to the class.
All of these people were accepted into the academy last year. Our course schedule is done at the tail end of the year prior. So we know January 1, we get our packet as to what we have for this year. And all these people had been accepted into the academy and were preparing to go to the academy, but it's my fault that they didn't get to go.
Further discussion. Alderman Court.
Mayor, I move that we allow the Starkville Fire Department to proceed with promotions and allow candidates to be considered for promotional opportunities subject to the 6 criteria as provided in the Starkville Fire Department memo.
Alderman Corey has made a motion to allow the fire department to proceed with promotions and allow candidates to be considered for promotional opportunities subject to the 6 criteria as recommended by the fire chief and the accompanying memo. Alderman Corey, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Corey, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Do not.
Any discussion? Alderman Perkins?
Mr. Mayor, just a brief finalization of this. Chief, is nothing personal on this, but I just strongly feel that there are some legal concerns with both of your requests. I just feel that even though the votes appear to be in place, but it's always my concern to do what's right. That's why I've done since been here. But my concern is that your request violates the employment process. There's a time that this should be done, and what this does is it gives a special accommodation. And the law frowns upon that. That violates the spirit of the law, and I don't mind telling you that because I have the experience in this area. So, but those are the reasons I'm going to vote against it, and these are all legally oriented. And of course, I'm going to just talk straightforward to you. And for those reasons, of course, I don't think I disagree with the city attorney in one aspect. He thinks you have a lot of discretion here. I don't think you have it because you're changing the rules in the middle of the process. You don't do this, in my opinion, at the time that the promotions are being considered. And of course, the attorney mentioned earlier, this, do the amendment and we can consider that time. It just frowns upon the timing of this process, and I think that taints the process. But nevertheless, I just want to share that with you respectfully. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll now move into a roll call vote on Alderman Corey's motion. Please answer yea, nay, or abstain as the city clerk calls your name.
Alderman Parker?
Yay.
Alderman Corey?
Yay.
Alderman Dumas?
Yay.
Alderman Perkins?
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn?
Nay.
Alderman Sistrum?
Yay.
4-2.
By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Dumas?
Yay.
Alderman Perkins?
Nay.
Alderman Vaughn?
Nay.
By a vote of 3 in favor with 4 against, measure fails. We'll now move back into general discussion on the proposed
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your healthcare needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in healthcare.